Okay, good morning and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Isabella Perry and I'm going to be your moderator. Today's presentation is on the Post-Audit Playbook presented by Evan Richman, PJRFSI's Food Safety Program Coordinator, and Joel Verke, PJRFSI's Commercial Business Manager. A quick housekeeping before we get started. The Q&A is available, but the chat will not be. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please use the Q&A or reach out directly on our website. Cameras will also be off for presentation. If you have any further questions or want to view the presentation or the recording after today's webinar, please go to our website for all that information on our webinars page. Now, Evan will take it away discussing today's topic.
Thank you, Bella. Sorry about that. Like she said, my name is Evan Richman. I'm the Food Safety Program Coordinator here at Perry Johnson Food Safety. I do a lot of the post-audit experience for our clients. I usually send the certificates. I also do some work in quotes. I'm also your day-to-day contact post-audit for any questions you may have, any technical questions that I could relay to the auditors or technical reviewers.
And my name is Joel Verke. Thank you, Isabella. Thank you, Evan. Great to be here today. I'm a commercial business manager here at Perry Johnson Registrars Food Safety Incorporated. So I basically, I help my clients get ready to, really get onboarded and hand it over to the folks like Evan and several others. But I just keep an eye on things and kind of play the role of advocate once that audit process starts, and just kind of make sure everything's running smoothly. So with that said, Evan, it is great to be here with you today. I think we're going to look at some really interesting stuff, frankly, stuff that I think we all get questions on fairly consistently. And it is even some folks that are have been in the QA for some time. There's just so many darn different standards, and what may be the timeline post-audit for one might not necessarily be that way for the other. But we're going to be looking at, if you look at the screen there, we're going to be looking at that post-audit journey. There's 5 stages. Look at kind of drill down into the timelines by standard. When NCs are due, when the audit report's due, certificate issuance, things like that. Now, how the clock works. Something that we kind of discuss with our kids when they're real little, but we're going to do it as adults here today. Kind of looking at calendar days. We're going to look at reports and databases. Big thing, of course, is part we never really talk about is kind of the money and paperwork, keeping your certificate current, and of course we're going to cover all of that stuff today. So, Evan, are you ready to get started?
Absolutely. All right. So your audit is done, and why are you still waiting?
Why, Evan? Why?
Yes, one of the most common questions we get, of course. Now, we don't want you to lose sleep over this. There can be a bit of a silence between the audit being finished and receiving your first communication afterwards. So what's the behind the scenes process? So, your auditor's gone, you're waiting to hear back about NCs, or you're waiting to submit and make sure that your corrections are closed. We want to remove the guesswork here. We just want to make it so that, you can use this as a great resource for yourself, take away some of the guesswork, take away some of the stress. We don't want you stressed out, obviously. And so we're going to go over a couple things here, the nonconformity and decision deadlines, where your audit report goes afterwards, and who to contact and when to contact them.
Yep.
So here's the post-audit journey in the 5 stages. Obviously, it's going to all start with your audit report. Depending on your standard, it depends where your audit report goes. So for SQF specifically, once it's approved, it's released to you. But after that, depending on if you have nonconformities, we need to wait for them to be closed out. And we're going to go over the timeline of closing out nonconformities in just a moment. Certificate decision is made after all your nonconformities are confirmed closed. Then once all those are confirmed closed, you will undergo a package review. Your final package review, once it is approved, this is the stage where the certificate coordinator, i.e. me, would send you the certificate sample. And then at the end, we are also going to go over some details about open balances. So just as a look here, here are many of the standards we offer, most here in PJRFSI, and here is a good guide on when to expect certain timelines. So NC closure is due, as you can see. It's pretty standard through most of the standards here, no pun intended. SQF is average of around 30 days. Most clients tend to submit corrective actions previous to this, but if you do wait till the end of that mark, that can push out a little bit receiving your certification, depending on how soon you submit those corrective actions.
And I think, Evan, it's be safe to say that the vast majority of people are submitting those NCs well before these deadlines, just to play it safe, right? Nobody wants to wait until the last minute.
Absolutely. I mean, oftentimes we see, as long as you have good communication with your auditor, who is where you will be submitting those corrective actions to, and as long as they're accepted, good communication with your auditor is really a good key here at this stage, post-audit between corrective action. Now, if you don't have any corrective actions, that's great. That's awesome. Then it will pretty much just skip to package review and certificate decision. But when you do have those nonconformities, you want to make sure to stay in good contact with your auditor. Any questions that you have about how you may implement something to close that nonconformity, that would also go directly to your auditor. So good line of communication can really help stamp down this timeline. These are the outer limits of when these should be due. So if you can get if you can get these closed sooner, then you'll get your certificate sooner as well. That goes the same for cert decision. Cert decision will be made sooner, the sooner we get those nonconformities closed.
And Evan, correct me if I'm wrong here. Let's just go down the line here. SQF for certification decision is 45 days, BRCGS 42, so on and so forth. And those limits are determined by the scheme writer. Your FSSC, your ISOs, Primus, whatever it might be, really is a guideline for us certification bodies. But I think it's safe to say, and I can only speak for PJRFSI, is that we do everything we can to beat those deadlines by a mile. We're going to issue that certificate as soon as we possibly can because we know you're waiting for it. But yes, anyhow, I just wanted to kind of point that out. We always do our best to beat those deadlines by a lot, and we typically do. And a big part of that, Evan, you're right on the front lines of this. It really comes down to NC closure, doesn't it?
Absolutely. NC closure is the biggest step between when it comes to the certificate coordinator and from the auditor. So once the auditor sees those nonconformities are closed and they are confirmed accepted, then it'll be reviewed by our executive committee review team, and that is really the last step before it goes to the certificate coordinator. So depending on how fast that happens, how fast you submit those nonconformity closures, it depends on how fast it moves through the approval process. Like Joel said, these are the limits. These are not the goal. These are averages set by the scheme holders. So we oftentimes see it a lot sooner than in terms of closure and certificate decision. Now, if there is a delay in closure, obviously that can push out. Global Gap, you'll see there, has two dates, two sets of days, 28 or 52. So that refers to 28 days is the average certificate decision for when you don't have any nonconformities. That's the average. So that would be from the last day of your audit. Now, the average for a certificate decision, if you do have nonconformities, is 52 days. It is on the longer end. However, again, that is a limit. That is not the goal. Now, here's how we count the clock, and I just want to spotlight a couple of standards here. So unless stated otherwise, calendar days starting from the last day of the on-site, it depends on when the report is written. it's not a business day count. It is calendar days. Now, SQF audit reports are released within 10 days the last day of the audit, like you see there. That is, again, set by the standard holder. So you will receive that from your auditor. Any communication regarding previous to certificate, but from your auditor, will be in regards to the audit report. BRCGS and Global Gap and FSSC all have databases. However, they are not all public. So BRCGS, you can grant access, and those audit reports will be uploaded within 49 days of the last day of the audit. That does not mean you will get the certificate, however, and that we will go over momentarily. FSSC, similar. They do not have they have a public setting, but they are uploaded into a private database for FSSC, which is required by the standard holder. Again, just want to spotlight Global Gap because this is a question we get pretty often. No nonconformities is 28 days to decision, but because of Global Gap takes a little bit of special care in terms of making sure nonconformities are closed. That's just because of the standard rules set by the standard holder. So that's why it does tend to be a tad longer. But again, that's a limit, not a goal. Now, where does your audit report go? Now, once the audit has been approved, not only will you hear back from your auditor, but you also hear from your certificate coordinator. So BRCGS, it's uploaded into the database, and I will be sending a copy to you. Depending on the circumstances, like if it was a change or if this is a recertification, then you will also get a copy of a sample certificate for approval at this stage as well. FSSC, it's the same thing. Global Gap, all these reports, all three of these go right into a database, but they will also be shared via e-copy with you when receiving a certificate sample. Okay, now here's the fun part. And this is where most of, I would say, a good portion of delays come in after you've been approved, after you've passed your certification. So package review. Package review is simply our executive committee making sure everything that needed to be closed has been closed. All documents are in order. All documents that need to be signed and received have been received. Evidence for closures have been received and logged. Once the review is complete, it'll get sent over to the certificate coordinator, me, and I will review the certificate for accuracy, pending on the information received from the executive review committee, and then you will get a certificate sample. Now, at this stage, this is where we want to make any corrections. This is where anything minor corrections in terms of name changes, typos, maybe the scope of certification is worded improperly or you want to change the wording of it, standard versions, address corrections, name spelling corrections. These are all important to pay attention. We do send an approval document that sort of restates that when we do send these samples as well.
You know, so Evan, sorry to interrupt you there. What I like to compare this to, especially when people are, because I've seen clients over the years casually review their draft certificate, yes, and encourage everyone not to do that. I kind of like to treat it as a driver's license. If your driver's license has the incorrect address or if it has the wrong birth date, it's not going to be very useful to you.
Correct. Absolutely.
This is such a detail-oriented process. The whole thing, as we know, if you've ever been through a GFSI audit, you know just how detail-oriented it is. And this is Absolutely. The final detail-oriented step, and it's just such a critical one. I'm sorry. Go on there, Evan.
No, absolutely. And that's a great point. I mean, catching a mistake here is your best course of action. So like Joel said, I really implore you, if you properly review your certificate and you notice a mistake, whether it be the spelling of a name or, you know, because everybody is human, there might be there's a possibility there could be a misspelled word. in the scope. And if there is, please don't hesitate to point that out. If anything seems incorrect, improper, doesn't look like it should be there, or it looks like there's something missing that should be, please reach out to us. We can either confirm that it shouldn't, or we can fix it, and we can discuss that with you directly. Now, one of the biggest questions I get, your NCs are closed, your certificate is approved. Where's my certificate? So we do hold certificates for open balances. This is for audit expense. So please make sure that you have closed your balance. If you are unsure, you can always reach out to your scheduler, or if you are already in the approval stage, you can reach out to your certificate coordinator. You can see the details here for contacting the FSI accounting department. You can also call into our Troy office and get directed to our accounting department as well for there. If you have any questions regarding whether or not you have a balance, you can ask me, the certificate coordinator. You can also ask your scheduler as well. They will be able to have access to whether or not you have a balance if you're unsure, or if you're not sure how to contact your certificate coordinator. To speed this up, it really does help if you have a single accounting contact as well. It's the fastest path to resolution, and is usually the last delay that you might face in terms of certification or waiting on your certificate. So please make sure the balances are paid. You will receive your audit report regardless of whether or not your balance is paid. However, I do want
you'll receive invoices well ahead.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, listen, people are busy, especially when we're dealing with perhaps a smaller manufacturer. You're running your business day to day, right? And this stuff can kind of fall through the cracks. But Evan, and this open balances has got to be, at least in my experience, one of the most common factors, if not the most common, in holding up a certificate. Would I be wrong in saying that?
No, that is absolutely correct. I mean, it's really just keeping your ducks in a row. And again, people do get busy, smaller businesses, or something may have been lost in translation. So when I do send, or the certificate coordinator does send a sample certificate, we almost always include a balance reminder. It's just a reminder saying, hey, by the way, this is your responsibility to make sure your account's up to date. Please make sure that it is up to date. And please, if you are reminded at the sample approval stage of a balance, please keep the coordinator in the loop, because it does help. If you are paying that day, oh no, I didn't know I have a balance, you call in right away. And obviously you want your certificate as quick as possible. So please, let them know, hey, I'm taking care of this right now, or I need to contact accounting. Let me see if they've paid this balance already, or if you want the invoices for specific charges or anything like that, you can always contact the certificate coordinator or the accounting department. Now, the 30-day sample window. So communication is the best way to get your certificate as quick as possible. Now, once a certificate sample is sent to you, the client, it has, as long as there's no balance, it has 30 days from when it's been approved for certification by the executive committee and when the certificate sample is sent to when we just send it. So it's very important you get back to us in this 30-day window, because we can change things, but it will lengthen the process. Also, you do want to make sure that all your information is correct. So if you do not send a sample back with a sample approval, then this will delay receiving your final certificate. So it's very important. Now, like I said, if you don't have a balance and there's no other outstanding factors or anything like that, then you will automatically receive your certificate within 30 days if there's no balance, if there are no changes. But it is important you keep in contact with the certificate coordinator.
I would say, typically 9 times out of 10, people are approving that certificate that very day or very shortly thereafter. Again, this is just kind of an absolute worst case scenario, that 30-day thing. I don't think I've ever seen anybody wait 30 days. Have you, Evan?
Oh, no. Generally, I mean, it's a very rare case. Generally, like you said, most people get back within the day the sample is sent, if not very early the next day. It's very rare that we have somebody, wait that 30 days with absolutely no communication. And generally, it's good to reiterate at this step as well. Please make sure on all documentation that you have received from PJRFSI that the contact information that you provided us is correct, or that we have provided it, restated it to you correctly. Because if we do have the incorrect contact information and you're wondering where your certificate is, it could be that we have the email of somebody who is no longer there. We have an outdated email, or maybe somebody's on vacation and they don't have access to their email. So if you want to provide us with more than one mode of communication in terms of email, you want to provide us maybe an assistant or another person in the department, that is absolutely fine, and we can include them on those communications as well. Now, some of the things that may occur during the approval process that you notice that would need either fixing or changing. Ownership and management. You should always notify us of any ownership or management changes. Now, and that goes with site contact and details as well, like I just previously said. That doesn't require any specific confirmation on our end in terms of documents. There wouldn't be any new documents to sign. You just need to let us know that, hey, as long as there's no name changes, then, hey, we're under new ownership. This is going to be the designated person that you guys will be dealing with. Site details, if there's any changes to the site, that would require, depending on what exactly the changes are, that may require either a revisit or a discussion with your coordinator and compliance representative. Now, if there's a legal entity name change, that is something that will absolutely require what we call an amendment. An amendment is basically a confirmation of change, and if the name changes, depending on the standard, unless it's a compliance standard, then it would most likely need to be changed within an applicable database like SQF, BRC, FSSC. These will require an amendment. This we will require documentation on, and we'll have a little bit more about that on the next slide. Now, significant process changes is another thing. Your scope of certification is so important that it stays up to date. If there's any changes at all, if companies stop manufacturing a specific product, obviously you don't want that to be included in your scope of certification. If you take on a new product that you want included in your scope of certification, that is a major detail that needs to be relayed to us. And that would also require a revisit or a scope extension, not necessarily a revisit, but a scope extension to add something, just to make sure we're up to date on everything that needs to be certified.
I think one of the more important driving factors behind that, of course, is when a certification body gives you a quote or a contract, whatever you want to call it, that outlines the duration of your audit. That duration is based on a lot of factors. And what you don't want to do is just kind of keep those changes to yourself. Like Evan said, if you've added products, if you've added processes, if who knows what the scenario is. What you don't want to do is wait until the auditor gets there that day. That's when there's going to be issues. That's when you're going to have surprise. Well, we need to extend this, or there might be a little bit more on your bill. So it's always good, just like Evan said, just to make us aware of all these things. If you're wondering, gosh, do they need to know this? Play it safe and let us know, and we'll let you know if it's going to affect anything. But always good to take things in between those audits. If there are big changes, like Evan said, let us know and let us figure all that out long before the auditor gets out there for your next audit.
Absolutely. I mean, when in doubt, if you're unsure of whether or not something should be relayed to us, relay it to us, because it won't hurt anything. If we don't need to know, well, we know anyway, it's not going to hurt anything. But chances are it's better to be safe than sorry, especially to keep your certificate current. Now, just a little bit more about the address and name corrections. If it's just a spelling correction or a formatting correction, like maybe you prefer Avenue be shortened to Av, or there's a missing letter at the end of a street name or something on the certificate, that doesn't require a new audit or anything like that. That's strictly handled administratively. It's usually a typo, or it could be maybe a communication mistake on when it was initially quoted. So please, if you let us know, don't be afraid, and we will reissue a certificate with the corrections. Now, where there is more than administrative action needed is when there's an actual address or site change. This, depending, if there's a site change and you're adding like a warehouse, then that would require a scope extension. It may require an on-site or at least a documentation review, and a new certificate would be issued in this case. Any physical relocation, especially of a production facility, that would require a new registration audit. Even if you're keeping the same processing steps, if it's a brand new address, it will require a new registration because that certificate is tied directly to that address. Now, I mean, here are some of the top questions we get. I mean, getting your report faster, and who can see your BRCGS report? I mean, those are two questions I get fairly often. BRCGS, it does have a public version of the database, but it can only really be seen by people you share it with. So if you have a client you want to share this BRCGS audit report with, or the certificate, because the certificate is uploaded after it's finalized, then this is something you want to take a look at. Now, in terms of getting your report faster, I mean, the timeframes we've covered here, and I really cannot stress this enough, the timeframes we covered here are the limits. They are not the goal. So please know that, you know, as long as you've done everything on your end, we are working as fast as we can. We typically respond same day, if not same couple of hours. We want to get you your certificate as fast as possible. All right. Now, here's just a little cheat sheet for you. This is just kind of overviewing a couple things here. These are just great guidelines to know. Between 28 and 30 days, again, these are all limits. These are not the goals. We strive to get them to you much sooner, and we typically do. As long as there are no delays in terms of letting us know any details or NC closures. And again, I can't reiterate it enough, in terms of receiving your final certificate, please make sure we have all the correct contact information. You have communicated with us any changes or corrections that you need to be made, and please make sure your balance is paid. Thank you very much, everybody. I really appreciate you joining us, going over the post-audit experience. If you have any questions for me, you can always reach out to me. You can see my email there below if you're a current client. And please don't hesitate to reach out about any certification questions.